Hey, welcome back. It's the Pat Miller Program here with you, trying to finish out our Thursday. We go to 3rd District Congressman and U.S. Senate candidate Jim Banks. Congressman Banks, good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Pat. Good to be with you.
And you. So how are things? Are you here or are you there or where are you?
We just walked off the floor. Votes are finished for the day. Back tomorrow for another day of voting for the week.
It's different in the House than the Senate, isn't it? I mean, you guys have votes that just happen all over the place, middle of the night sometimes. It really is kind of nutty how things happen for you guys over there.
It is a lot different from what I can tell. I mean, obviously my 8 years of experience as of this year in the House, it's been the honor of a lifetime to be able to serve here. But it is, I think, much more unpredictable in the House. The Senate hours are more during the day, but the House is kind of it's more rough and tumble. There are more of us, 435 of us. And,
right.
With this, our friend Steve Scalise is out for health reasons, getting a treatment for blood cancer.
Oh, boy.
And you had a couple of people leave. Kevin McCarthy quit at the end of the year.
Right.
Another congressman from Ohio is becoming president of a small college in eastern Ohio. So with Mr. Scalise being out, we now have a one-seat Republican majority in the House. So a the slimmest of all majorities. One more Republican gets sick or leaves, and the Democrats could take the majority away from us. So it makes it very challenging, of course, but that's the dynamic that we're dealing with in the House at the moment.
Yeah. Do you run around and check on everybody, check their temperatures, spray everybody's throat with chloroseptic to make sure they stay healthy and all that?
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, the Democrats are ready to seize the majority if one more person leaves. George Santos was kicked out of Congress,
and that was insane.
I think it was foolish for a couple of different reasons. Obviously, if he had been convicted in the courtroom at that point of the vote, it would make sense to remove him. But by removing him before that happened, not only is it not the precedent of how Congress operates, but that's one more Republican vote that we've lost along the way. So here we are, Pat. I mean, we're on the eve of another major spending fight, and Republicans have a one-seat majority, barely any leverage at all to fight back against the Democrats in the Senate and Joe Biden to try to rein in wasteful spending. So we're in a tough spot.
Well, and if you get a congressman that is a Republican, says it after their name, but they're from a part of the country or they're from a certain wing of the Republican Party where the conservative banner doesn't really matter to them, there are some times when the Republicans will all gather to vote on something, but they won't all be together on their vote.
Especially when it comes to big spending and special interest spending and a lot of the wasteful spending that happens in Congress. As you know, I vote against almost all of these spending bills since the time I've been in Congress. But you have some Republicans who go along with the Democrats to spend more, and now we have a $34 trillion national debt to show for it. So Speaker Johnson is negotiating with Chuck Schumer and the White House. I don't like where they ended up, and I've been very clear to the Speaker and to my Republican colleagues, I'm not going to vote for any spending bill that doesn't secure the border and cut wasteful spending and send us down a path to balancing the budget. And the deal that the preliminary deal that they've struck doesn't do that. So that's on behalf of Northeast Indiana, the 3rd District. There's no way I can vote for that. I'm glad to hear, though, that he's backed off of the deal and maybe reevaluating, and I hope that something better comes out of it.
I actually put it out there that you were going to be on with me today, and I told people to send some questions in that I might be able to ask you. I hope you're open for this.
Of course.
Yeah, and I can't do them all. I've probably got about 30 of them here, so I'm going to try to do maybe about 3. Why would I vote for Jim Banks for Senate if he passed the spending bill that he admitted he didn't like what was in it? Which particular bill do you think they're talking about?
I have no idea. I've never voted for a spending bill that I didn't like what was in it. And if you look at my record of all of the spending bills that have, over the 8 years that I've been in Congress, there are only a few of them I voted for. One was to increase our defense spending under President Trump. That's the only spending bill. Maybe a short-term spending bill. All of those happen. I haven't voted for a single spending bill under Joe Biden and the Democrats in control.
Yeah.
But I've been a leading fiscal conservative budget cutter since I've been in Congress. I'm very proud of I have one of the most, by the standards of Heritage Action and the Club for Growth, who score these things. I have one of the most, probably top 10 fiscally conservative voting records in the entire Congress, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, and those guys, when they score it up and you do well, that makes you feel rather accomplished because they don't care what party you are. They'll rip anybody for anything if you don't do it on spending the way they thought. Jim Banks, thoughts on abolishing the Department of Education and returning that responsibility to the states where it belongs? Your thoughts on that?
I'm all for it.
Okay.
The federal government has no role in the education of our kids. That's a role that by the Constitution of the state of Indiana and the our United States Constitution leaves that to the states. Our state constitution has a large section on education. So I've made it my mission in Congress, serving on the House Education Committee, to unravel the control that the federal government has on education policy and all the strings attached to government education grants. And under President Trump, we did a lot to unwind it. Under President Biden, the Democrats have done more to consolidate more power in the federal government. But the best way to send control back to the states and back to parents and teachers and stakeholders is to completely abolish the federal Department of Education. I'm all for it.
Congressman Banks, why wasn't Hunter Biden held in contempt of Congress like all the Trump people who did the same thing? That would have to be up to like whatever committee he was supposed to be in front of, and then have that sent to the floor. Is that right?
That's right. And this process began earlier this week. And I saw the hearing and the stunt that Hunter Biden pulled and showing up briefly, and they slipped out when Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to actually engage with him and ask him questions. He really didn't want to answer questions. He just showed up and acted like he wanted to.
Yeah. See, I was there. I went to Capitol Hill.
Started asking questions.
Yeah. It was nothing but a sham show. Congressman Banks, do you think that if Trump continues to avoid debates, this is more of an opinion than an actual thing, but do you think that he will be seen as doing similar to what Biden did, where he hid out in his basement? I'll give you my opinion on that, and you can give me yours. I don't think it's the same, because Biden didn't come out for anything. He just hid in the basement. Trump is not doing the debates, but he's out there with rallies, and he's out there just as much as anybody that's on the debates, I think.
Yeah, I think all of these candidates should drop out of the race and back the leader of our Republican Party, Donald Trump, who is inevitably going to be the Republican nominee. And the candidates who are still in the race, Pat, are doing a disservice to the Republican Party and to our country by continuously beating up on Donald Trump. He's going to be the nominee. We need to strengthen him and build him up to be the best candidate in the strongest position to win and beat Joe Biden to save this great country come November. So I don't blame him at all for not showing up to the debates. And by the way, every time there is a debate, Donald Trump does something like he did last night on his own, and there are always 2, 3, 4 times as many people watching Donald Trump than watching the debate. And there's a reason for that. He is the leader of the Republican Party. He's going to be the Republican nominee. He was a great president, and I believe he's going to be a great president again.
Yeah. For me, and you and I have had this discussion, I kind of hope he tones back the rhetoric a little bit once he gets beyond the election and he gets put back in office, because I want him to be known more by what he does and the stance he takes rather than just the cute quips that he says, because I don't know that always is the best thing. But then again, I've never been a president.
Well, the president has a great campaign platform, and it falls right in line with what he accomplished for the 4 years that he was president. And the media is never going to cover the substance of what he's talking about, and when he's campaigning in these rallies or all the interviews that he's doing. I'm in touch with him. He's campaigning as hard as he ever has before, and I'm excited about we're just a few days away from the Iowa caucuses. President Trump's going to win that handily, I believe. Then you go to New Hampshire, and South Carolina, Nikki Haley's home state of South Carolina, Donald Trump is going to win South Carolina by a mile. And at that point, I'm convinced at that point it's over. He'll be the nominee. Republicans have already rallied around him, and it's time for the party to coalesce those who are left to drop out, endorse him, back him, help him win in November.
Do you see anybody else, Haley or DeSantis? Do you see either one of them being in line to perhaps become a vice presidential candidate? Now, DeSantis made the statement last night after their debate. He had no desire to be a vice president. And I guess maybe I get that from him. He can continue to legislate and to do things down in Florida. And if he becomes, a candidate again in 4 years, Donald Trump can't run again in 4 years. So that might be the better time for DeSantis. But can you see maybe Nikki Haley being considered?
Well, also keep in mind, DeSantis can't constitutionally be Donald Trump's running mate. They're both
same state.
They both live and are residents of the state of Florida. So unless Ron DeSantis is going to switch his residency to another state, which he's not going to do that, he's the governor.
Right.
So he's a great governor, by the way. I mean, his record is strong in Florida. He can go back to being the governor of Florida. I don't know. There are so many good names out there. I mean, I would love to see Donald Trump pick Tucker Carlson. The left would go bananas if Tucker Carlson was vice president. But Elise Stefanik, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Tom Cotton. There are lots of
love Tom Cotton,
senator from Ohio. There are lots of good names out there who could be vice president.
Yeah.
He's got a great list to pick from.
Can I go out on a limb here and can I make a prediction for you for who I don't think it will be, no matter what?
Sure.
I don't think it'll be former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, but that's just me.
It's not going to be me either. He's got so many great candidates to pick from, and I believe that this second Trump term will be even more effective than the first because the president he has experience now to know who to put in these important positions to make him more effective to fulfill the mandate that the American people will give him next November, I believe.
Okay, so you just came off the floor. When's the next set of votes? When is it that comes up before you all? Is there anything yet tonight or something tomorrow?
Well, more votes tomorrow. I mean, we're in the midst of all of these negotiations. A government shutdown staring us in the face a week from now if we don't get our act together and pass a spending bill. But I'm not voting for any spending bill that doesn't cut spending and secure our border.
Are you not voting for a CR?
I'm not voting for a CR either. I mean, that's just kicking the can down the road and continuing to. A CR at this point, Pat, would be extending the Pelosi, Biden, Schumer spending levels of the last Congress before the Republicans won the majority. That's a complete non-starter for me because that doesn't cut spending. It continues to grow spending.
Yeah, I mean, this is just me. I'll throw it out there. I'll let you answer it, and then we got to get out of here, Congressman. But don't you think, because the thing the Democrats are going to say, if you Republicans don't come and join us, the government's going to shut down. Let it shut down. I mean, let it shut down. And then in about a week say, now, are you guys ready to reopen government? Or do you just want to keep holding on to this?
Right, and whose fault is that? That's Joe Biden and the Democrats' fault for not negotiating with the new Republican majority that we were just given in the last election.
Yeah.
And the reason that we were given that majority is to be a check on this president and what he's done to grow a $34 trillion national debt. So the blame falls squarely on Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats' shoulders if it comes to a government shutdown. I hope it doesn't come to a shutdown. I hope we can negotiate a bipartisan deal that secures the border and cuts spending, and the responsibility for that lies in the Democrats' lap to come to the table and negotiate with Republicans to do that.
Right, and properly funds defense. Congressman Banks, as always, thank you very much, sir. Got to run. News is coming up. Thanks for calling us back, and we're glad it all worked out. We'll talk to you again next week.
Day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. 3rd District Congressman Jim Banks. Derek's up with the news. We do all this straight ahead.
Podcasts by Federated Media.